Now let's talk about Sri Lanka. It's finally getting that bailout. The International Monetary Fund has made the announcement Colombo will get $3 billion. It has taken nearly 1 year and Sri Lanka has gone through hell. The country defaulted on its debts. Its reserves were dangerously low. There was runaway inflation, seemingly endless blackouts, acute shortage of essentials and long lines for fuel. It led to the ouster of the powerful Rajapaksas. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had to flee the country. Protesters took over his official residence, that's the president's house. Then a change of guard took place, and assistance from India helped in stabilizing the island. There is some semblance of order now, but Sri Lanka is not out of the woods yet, far from it. First, let's tell you about the bailout. The IMF has approved a $3 billion loan program. It will run for 3 years. Sri Lanka will get $333 million. This is the first tranche of funds, $333 million. It will be transferred in the next few days, and the rest of the money will follow over the course of 3 years. In all, it will be disbursed in 9 tranches. The current president, Ranil Wickremesinghe, shared the good news. He said that Sri Lanka is no longer a bankrupt country.
Sri Lankaව බංකොලොත් රටක් හැටියට
Sri Lanka is no longer a bankrupt nation. Therefore, we can restart normal transactions. As our foreign exchange situation improves, we'll gradually roll back import restrictions. Essential goods, medicine, and things needed for the tourist industry will be in the first round.
ක්‍රමානුකූලව ඉවත් කරන්නට යනවා.
But the loan comes with strings attached. Colombo had to agree to a slew of changes for this bailout. This is what Sri Lanka will have to do: increase its tax base, slash subsidiaries on imported goods, and reduce corruption. And Colombo has no option but to do all of this. The disbursement of the IMF loan is tied to these steps. And the IMF will conduct a review every 6 months. It has spelled out its expectations quite clearly.
This is a very ambitious program. It's clearly very ambitious, and implementation will be key. The one factor here is that there is broad recognition across the political spectrum of the need for reforms given the situation in economic situation in Sri Lanka. So that gives us belief that there will be progress made on these reforms, and the government will deliver on the remaining reforms.
But the money from the IMF will not be enough. Sri Lanka will have to raise more funds to stabilize its economy. And where will that money come from? Colombo is working on some plans. It wants to restructure state-owned enterprises. It wants to privatize Sri Lankan Airlines, which is their national carrier. There's also an urgent need to restructure debts, and that is the immediate challenge. Sri Lanka has to present a restructuring strategy, which means reworking the terms of national debt, the monthly payments, and the interest rates. All of it has to be reworked. As of December 2022, Sri Lanka owed $84 billion. This is Colombo's total outstanding public debt, $84 billion. Some of those payments are due already. Sri Lanka has to pay $2 billion. This money is due to multilateral lenders in the first half of this year, $2 billion. But repaying debts is the last thing that Colombo wants to do right now. It is looking for a 10-year moratorium, a 10-year exemption on all foreign debt. It's a tall ask. Sri Lanka will have to convince all its lenders. And the most problematic one will be China. On that front, Colombo is already struggling. There's a sharp focus on Chinese loans. Do you know how much money Sri Lanka owes to China? As of December 2022, Beijing was owed $7.4 billion. That's almost 20% of Sri Lanka's total public debt. And what about loan waivers? Well, Beijing is a shark. It has been non-committal on waiving loans. In fact, Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister Ali Sabri was asked about this. He was asked if China would consider writing off some loans. I have his response. This is what he said. We have the will to pay, but we don't have the capacity to pay. What we are now trying to do is get that capacity back. That's going to be a very difficult and serious discussion. He said it. It's going to be difficult. And dealing with lenders like China is just one part of the Lankan government's challenge. It also has to win back the confidence of its people. Recent days have seen fresh protests. 5 days ago, unions in Sri Lanka went on a strike. Workers from hospitals, schools, and the railways protested. They wanted a wage hike. The government passed an order banning all strikes. It made such protests illegal. The order was controversial, to say the least. The government got a lot of flack for it. President Wickremesinghe now faces a dual test, reviving the economy while keeping his country together.